welcome to Betty's Real Estate Corner, brought to you by Sakamoto Properties, where prestige is our business, reputation our foundation. As always, we start the day with Danny Couch. Love Danny Couch, love that song, I Love Hawaii. Today here in the studio, Dean Otto, who is, I think you all know about Dean Otto, so I'm not going to give you the whole story on Dean, but kind of an interesting thing right now is Dean is, I believe, the chairman of the board of Maui Preparatory Academy, which is turning out to be a really phenomenal school for West Maui. When I think that a few years back, our only option was Lahaina Luna, which I fully support, love Lahaina Luna, love everything that's going on there, great school. But there were that element of people that really chose private schools and were sending their kids to Seabury Hall, which basically is a 3-hour round trip. We'll enter Dean Otto, a variety of other real estate brokers, including ourselves, and people that really tried and have made a school happen there at Maui Preparatory Academy. But you know, Dean, you were telling me about a young man who is looking to go into real estate. And he's in school, and Dean, I would say, is somewhat mentoring him. And it became a great conversation for us today. So I think it's a way for us to get started. You know, tell us, you know, what you've been saying to him and how he can make it really happen. I think it's great.
Thanks, Betty. Thanks for having me on the show today. And thank you for bringing up Maui Prep. Yes, it is a phenomenal school, and it's going exceptionally well. I'm happy to say, so I appreciate you bringing it up, and we're thrilled about everything that's going on over there. It's been a huge success, and it's been a great year for us this year, so we look forward to planning our next 5 years as we head into a strategic plan here. But your reference to one of the kids at Maui Prep, I love dealing with these kids at Maui Prep for two reasons. One is they call me Mr. Otto. And secondly, they always come up with really interesting questions that we don't typically see, you know, very generic, sort of very general questions, and it's interesting. It's been an interesting experience for me because it requires that I sort of step back and look at the fundamentals of the market and try to provide justification for some of the opinions that we so quick to throw out. And this particular guy, his name is Lyndon Wilfer, and he's a junior at Maui Prep, and he's also studying real estate in one of his classes, and he keeps firing some pretty interesting questions at me. And the question that he came to me with recently was, can you explain to me how or why house prices move up or down in value? You know, so it's such a basic question and so general. I think it requires sort of stepping back to the fundamentals here. And you know, as I explained to him, obviously the pricing is driven by supply and demand, and it's a pretty simple process really. And demand being the number of recorded sales or the sales activity, and supply obviously being the number of available listings. So in summary, it's pretty simple. Sales activity increases and inventory declines, and prices will ultimately increase. So essentially what I did for him is I took a step back in time and tried to track the trend in the market, and found some fairly interesting statistics that I think will make some sense for some of you out there as you assess the market. But you know, if you go back to the year 2005, it appears that 2005 clearly was the peak in our market. And at that time, at the year end 2005, we had sales activity increasing at 7% over the previous year, and the average sale price increasing a whopping 27%. You know, obviously, increasing 27% in the year is probably not a sustainable growth rate, and the result was that the market turned at the end of 2005, and in 2006, you'll see that the sales activity was down 17%. So obviously there was a turn there at the end of 2005, 17% less sales in 2006, and then we went through a difficult period between 2007 and April of 2009. The inventory, or the number of listings, increased every month for that period of time, and it peaked at, as I say, 2009 with you know, a whole bunch of inventory in the market. So what happened after 2009, being the bottom of the market, we started to see the market stabilize, and we started to see sales activity picking up again. And 2011, which is really our first stable year in a long time, we saw sales activity up 10% and the average sale price up 5%. So that you can kind of see a clear trend. if you look at 1990 as the bottom, the previous peak in our market, that would be 1990. The next peak came in 2005, and that was a 15-year cycle, which is, I would say, unusually long, and probably a reflection of some of the trials and tribulations we went through with the economy and mortgage meltdown and all the rest of it. So
Also, Dean, 9/11.
9/11 was a
I
major
think
factor.
dragged that through.
Yeah, what we had seen in the past was a typical 10-year cycle, and we saw that change in this last cycle to 15 years, and we took a real beating in the 1990s, and then a real boost in 2001 through 2006. But you kind of see the trend. You see the peak in the very clear peak in 2005. You see a very clear bottom of the market in 2009, and stabilizing of the market. And if you look at the statistics for the first quarter of this year, you're going to see that the trend is continuing. With 3% up in number of sales over the first quarter of last year, and we continue to see an increase in the average sale price of 8% increase over the prior year. So there's a definite trend developing. We're clearly, as far as the statistics show, clearly beyond the bottom of the market, and I think this is a great time and really a good sign for our markets. And for any of you that have been in the markets looking to buy a property, I think this would be a phenomenal time to buy. As Betty and I were just talking about, you don't really want to try to predict the very bottom of the market, because that's impossible to do. You want to see a little progress so that you can identify that we're past the bottom of the market, and we're clearly at that point right now. So if there's anyone on the fence out there, this would be the perfect time to buy.
You know, one of the things that is interesting going through those statistics, there have already been 800 properties that have sold this year in Maui. That's a lot of property in a relatively small island. Currently under contract, there's pushing 600, five something. So I think it's a big number. So again, if you're looking to buy, we've been pushing this thing, a recession is a terrible thing to waste. True, it is so true, and I think no matter what your category is, this is a time that you should be stepping up. There's every indicator why you should be getting into a property today, starting with the statistics that Dean has been saying. We're in it. I mean, we're in the changing market, and there is no way to be sure what the bottom was. So we're just kind of thinking it is time. If you started with, I think, Dean, if we kind of thought out the food chain idea, at some point, whether you're starting at the top of the food chain and you need to sell a property because you're retiring again or you aren't staying in Maui anymore, that's one direction. But in a lot of cases, the whole market can be changed by just the possibility that the first guy knows he wants, even Dean, the Maui Dream, the whole Maui Dream thing. For a while there was no Maui Dream or, home ownership dream. People were beginning to feel like they would only be able to rent. Well, I think the Maui Dream, the dream of household ownership, it's alive and well.
I think it's coming back, and that's a good point. I was looking at statistics earlier, and one of the interesting statistics is that 54% of the people on Maui own their property, and that's probably the lowest it's been as far as, I guess, we've been keeping track of those statistics. But that's a significant drop. So, and ultimately, as Betty said, we sort of lost a little bit the dream, but I think that everything is back on track, and ultimately that dream is going to be still alive. And as far as the sort of the chain of the food chain, as you say, I think it's the first-time home buyer is a really critical part of the markets, and you see a lot of focus on government efforts to get first-time home buyers into the market, because it does trigger a chain reaction. When a first-time home buyer buys, that means someone's selling and they have the potential to upgrade, and of course it just, as you say, it causes a chain reaction.
Yeah, most people want to upgrade. I mean, if they're selling what maybe was their first home, the odds are pretty good that what they want to do is go up the food chain a bit. They want to get something a little bit bigger or a little bit better. Or they want to move to a different neighborhood. Maybe they want to go up country now, or they have wanted for a long time to come to West Maui, and they weren't able to. Well, now I think that we've got some pricing in West Maui that, between some great valued properties and interest rates that I think would have been unheard of at some point, are so great that there's every reason that you can step into the market and have home ownership your dream again.
Right. And I think one of the important statistics that I sort of briefly touched on, which I think is very important if you're a buyer in the market right now, would be the fact that our inventory has changed so dramatically. You know, since the peak in the inventory in April 2009, we're down over 50% in our inventory and down 20% in the last 12 months. So the choices are dwindling, the market is changing, and it's clearly, in my opinion, the time to get into the market if you're on the fence. And I've been working with quite a few first-time home buyers, and what I'm finding is you can actually get into properties and have a mortgage less than what they're paying in rent. And you know, rents are still pretty high. Prices are super low right now, so it's given people the ability to pay the same amount of money in rent towards a mortgage and build equity.
We've seen some great sales recently that are the first-time home buyer. We had a really great couple that bought a home in Napili. Again, first-time home buyers, one child, and you could see the dream, you could see the happiness that was coming down as they were getting through the mortgage process, working through this, working through that, and the excitement. That is a pretty amazing thing, Dean, the first-time home buyer getting into their home.
Yeah, it's really the fun part about real estate, and yeah, I'm also working with a first-time home buyer now, and it's really fun to see the excitement as the deal sort of is winding down. But you know, again, this is a person that was paying more in rent than they're going to be paying in their mortgage. They were able to get 100% financing through the USDA, and you know, what a great deal! 100% financing and super low rate. Can't beat it. Cheaper than rent. So it's really exciting. There are those opportunities, and you know, as I say, they're not going to be there, I don't think, much longer, because you can see the market changing.
Dean, what was the USDA rate, or how did that happen?
I'm not sure what the rate's going to be yet, because
But how did they get the whole loan? How did they make that happen with a 100% loan?
Yeah, they actually were referred to the USDA through our school. Actually, this is a teacher at Maui Prep, and the USDA was actually very instrumental in refinancing our existing debt. So we just went through a major restructuring of our finances at Maui Prep, and the USDA, because of the rural nature of the area, that the Napili area, we qualified for rural USDA financing, and we ended up getting a 30-year loan, which was guaranteed by the USDA. But as a result of that relationship, we realized that there were significant opportunities out there, and the USDA is a great place that most people don't think about, but it does work on Maui because of the rural nature of the island.
So are you saying that, let's say somebody's listening to us today, and they have this dream of home ownership, they're kind of stuck in a rental because it's all they believe they can do, that it's possible that if they go to the USDA website or something and try to check it out, that there may be an option for them, depending on where they're buying, what they're doing, to do a 100% loan?
Correct. You know, as with any of these types of programs, there's certain standards and qualifications that you have to meet, and they vary from program to program. In addition to the USDA, there are also other government-sponsored programs. I think Lokahi is another one, which offers some really attractive financing options for people that qualify. And I think probably the best thing to do would be to contact a mortgage broker to find out what the best option would be for your particular situation. But there are definitely some great options available, and I'm also working on another deal, which actually is the first mortgage will not only include the purchase of the property, but they'll actually include the remodel amount as well. So that program is also available for people that qualify, as I say, not just the first position loan for the purchase of the property, but it include a rehab cost as well too. So that's kind of an unusual program. You know, most people sort of have this opinion that financing is this sort of big black hole, and everyone's a little afraid of whether or not they'll qualify based on what you hear in the media. But we found that there is definitely money available, and there's great programs and exceptional money at incredible rates available. And I think that I wouldn't be afraid of what you hear in the media, and I think you would be surprised. You're never quite sure how you're going to fit into the box, but there are some great options available right now, and you know, many more than we realize.
I think it can be critical, and again, just addressing right now the first-time home buyer, the whole idea that a lot of people have bought properties that maybe at one point were foreclosed on and have sat empty, but you're buying it and yet you need to fix it up. I mean, you don't want to step in there, use whatever funds you have available to just make the purchase and then not be able to do anything. So that type of a loan, Dean, I think is amazing. If you have any questions about that, give us a call at Dean 870-7736. You can call our office 669-0070 and let us help you in any way to direct you. David Friedman can be a great source, 385-8558. And there's a number of other people to call us. We'll give you a list of possible lenders to talk to. You know, Dean, for the lokahi plan, do the mortgage brokers actually work on that, or you have to go through the lokahi website? Do you know?
I'm not completely sure how that works, but I know that lokahi is part of the program, and I think you'll be working with the mortgage broker, but lokahi would be something that would be packaged into the deal. But the tricky part with lokahi is that if you sell within a certain period of time, you owe that money back. So it encourages you to keep the property longer, but if you are going to be planning to keep a property for 10 years plus, that might be a good program for you. It's not a program where you want to get it in and out of in a couple of years.
Yeah, at one point what they were doing is you needed to have some amount of money down, and let's say it was $12,000. So if you had $12,000 down, they would match that with another $12,000. And if you sold the property, you ended up having to pay that $12,000 back, plus some sort of interest, which was not prohibitive, but it really was the thing that was getting people into properties, and I kind of had lost sight of the lokahi plan. So I think it really is worth our taking a look at it, and several agents in the office, I think, are really paying a lot of attention to that. So give us a call. You know, ask for Dean or myself, 669-0070, and we'll direct you to one of our agents that are trying to stay abreast of everything that's going on, particularly for the first-time home buyer. There have been some great homes there at Napili Hau, you know, for, again, first time. And people working in West Maui, it becomes more and more critical that they have the ability to live in West Maui. So I think that really is, we need to work with people so that you are finding lenders, you're finding homes, and that you're making your home, you know, somewhere on the west side of Maui.
Right. And I think that that's a good point. As I mentioned before, the first-time home buyer is such a critical part of the market. And you know, I think it's going to be important to see that segment of the market pick up a little speed. And I think there are going to be some great opportunities coming up too, because what's happening is there's a lot of pressure on the banks right now to release inventory that they're holding. And the banks hold on to the inventory apparently. You know, there's a variety of reasons, I guess, but a lot of it is how it's shown on the books and when they have to write off the loan. And there's a lot of complicated considerations for a bank, but one of the strategies has been to take the property back from the owner and sit on it and not put it back on the market. And the timing of that is under some scrutiny from the federal government, and so there's some pressure for these banks to release the shadow inventory, as they call it. And so what we do expect to see is some really great opportunities coming onto the market owned by banks, and I think those are going to be great opportunities for your first home buyers. And I think the bank-owned REO is a much simpler process as far as going through an escrow than the short sale process. So short sale process can take 6 months and you still don't know whether you're going to get the deal or not. But the bank-owned REOs, especially because I think there's going to be some inventory coming on the market here pretty soon, is going to be clearly something to look out for. So get in touch with us if you're interested in staying abreast of any new REOs coming on the market.
It's still actually an interesting thing. I don't quite understand why with this whole bank-owned properties that they didn't figure out a way to work with the initial homeowner, that if they had negotiated the loan with them, worked with them on the interest rate, gave them X number of years, you know, and they would stay in their home, which makes them still an excellent consumer, people that are going to the schools, shopping in our neighborhood, and it's a home, it's their home. But instead, you know, there have been foreclosures that I don't think ever should have happened, so that a bank can then own a whole bunch of properties and keep them in a shadow inventory. But I guess that's a whole other question, and they say the banks are trying to work on this so that they will eventually help the person that's in their home trying to make it work. And I sure would like to see that happen, Dean.
I know, I've had this conversation with Betty at least on 10 occasions now. She's pretty upset about this.
Yes, I am.
But I think that I understand, you can see what she's saying. I mean, there's many cases here where an existing owner of a property would have agreed to a modification of their loan for a much greater price than what the bank ends up selling it at a foreclosure for. So I think Betty's reasoning is perfectly understandable. The problem becomes, and I'm not a banker, the problem becomes banks operate completely differently and independently of the real estate market, and I think they have different considerations, which are shareholders and financials to consider, and it's pretty complicated, obviously.
I guess it just still seems to me that there are shareholders and there are accountants and there's this and that the whole thing still should be that we take a long, hard look as a community and what we're doing, and we take care of the people. If we take care of the person who's in the home, he eventually becomes a better investor, whether it's in the banks or in his community or sends his kids to the schools, or I don't see how it helps to throw people out of their home when they're really trying, if they're not trying at all. But Dean's right, I get on this and I've got to drop it, so why don't we sell some real estate here?
Let's get to real estate.
Let's get to something.
Any listing picks for the week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still at, we have a great Napili house listed at $750,000, but people are getting ready to move. It's that subdivision that was created, Dean, remember the one, it was a Maui Kapalua Land Company subdivision that was put together primarily or for employees, and there was a deal in that you couldn't sell, but they're past that. But this home backs up to a ravine, so it really gives it a huge spacious feeling. The land is about 11,000, almost 12,000 square feet. The house is about 2,600. It is set up, so that you can have a family member staying downstairs or two family members kind of, as a little bit detached from the house, so that they're in the house. But it really is a great thing for older kids, etc. But at $750,000, there's 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. Fabulous house. It's going to be really easy to show, tropical type setting, fruit trees. And Dean, we have already talked too much. We are down to 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Well, I have to pop in here real quickly with my favorite listing right now, which is a listing in Pineapple Hill, and it's actually Carlos Santana's house, and it's the most amazing property ever. And we just reduced the price from $7.5 million to $6,950,000. And that would be a phenomenal value for an exceptional quality 7,800 square foot mansion in Kapalua.
It's amazing. Property. It's phenomenal. The little separate area that I think he was doing for music, etc.
Yeah, as a music studio.
Yeah, it really is a one-of-a-kind property. So I guess as we wind down again, I don't know, we talked pretty fast to get a half hour in, but I think we did it. So we're coming to the end. We'll have Danny Couch hopping back on here in just a minute. So is there anything else? I mean, Maui Prep, as long as we're talking about Maui Prep today, just so everybody knows, it is a, they are looking for contributions. When you see that they've got some sort of a fundraiser, the kids are out there doing everything. And something you said a minute ago, and this is a little rambly maybe, Dean, but that the kids call you Mr. Otto. It is nice again when you see kids, and there are in our community now, I think we're getting back to a time of politeness. But love to see it through Maui Prep. It's great.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Aloha.
Aloha.
See you next time.